everyone. So welcome to another great presentation at DCH. Here we have Monica Cochran. Thank you for joining us, Monica. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, I will. Well, first off, I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of this conference. I think it's an awesome opportunity for parents and kids, and whether they're new to homeschooling or they've been doing it for a long time, to have a chance to see so many wonderful presentations and people. So thank you. Um, so a little bit about me. I've been an educator for 40 years. I've been in alternative education for most of it. I've homeschooled two of my kids. I've worked with home learning families for over 20 years now, at Clonlar and then at Self Design Learning Foundation. A few years ago, I went into private practice. So my practice is called Learning Without Borders. So I do personalized learning. I do educational therapy. I do a type of play therapy called DIR, which is developmental individual differences and relationship based. It works really well with kids who have developmental challenges and have autism sometimes. I do parent education and coaching and transition planning. And just recently, I started doing something that's not even up there, something called Safe and Sound Protocol, which helps people desensitize to some of their, sounds that they hear. So get a chance to do a lot of things. So I really appreciate this opportunity.
That's awesome. And of course, I love learning without borders because of course now we're doing this online, and so there are no borders. There are no, walls. Anyone can come and see this, and it's awesome, and you're able to help, I'm sure, so many people by being able to provide this information out there. And you have a really great presentation for us today, which has a ton of great information. I can't wait to share. So what is your presentation? I'll have you start off your presentation here for us.
Well, basically, it's about strengths or weaknesses and which ones do we focus on and why. So today, I'd like to invite you to discover how to see strengths in ourselves and in others, and then explore what might be in the way, because sometimes we're not able to do that very easily. And then also, I want to share a little bit about how using strengths can create a positive learning experience for learners of all ages. And the learner I'm going to talk about is one that I would call a quirky learner. She's very bright, but had some significant learning challenges that had made learning not very much fun for her for a while. So that I'm looking forward to doing that.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah, we have a lot of different
yeah,
types of learners out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of
yeah,
new parents schooling that aren't familiar with how they can help their kids and figure out what their learning style is. So this is going to be awesome.
very much. So the first question I like to ask is, what is your lens? Because our lens comes from culture, it comes from our experiences, it comes from environment and circumstances, our gender, our values. These all create lenses, and once we become aware of what our lens is or our perspective on things, it can help us a lot. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So, first thing, I want you to experience what it's like to use your strengths and not use your strength. So, got a little handwriting challenge for you, and anybody can do this if you're watching our video here, or Victoria's going to do it right now. Is I want you to write your name 5 times with your non-dominant hand. All right, and then so tell me a little bit. How did that feel for you?
So I hated it. It was awful. uh, my handwriting is not the neatest. So it's like this weird amalgamation of like print and cursive. And so, but that's because I've gotten used to the hand motion. I'm just doing it. And then when I was doing with my non-dominant hand, I was like having to try with each individual letter to really try to make that letter shape so that it's at least somewhat legible. And
Yeah.
it was just awful. I was looking at my right. I'm like, oh my god, just holding the pencil was just
Mhm.
so foreign. It was so difficult. I'm glad it looks like words, but
And this is what our children experience. I mean, this is really what they were experiencing when they were first learning how to write. And when we're asking them to learn in ways that don't utilize their strengths, these are the feelings that it brings up. And we don't want them to hate learning. We want them to like learning. We want them to enjoy learning, right? So
yeah.
when we're asking people to learn and live in ways that they're not using their strengths, it can get become very challenging. So thank you very much. I know that's a hard thing to do. So thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so strengths are talents that we're born with. Okay, they're the unique way that you have a chance to see the world, and we use them in a lot of different areas. So when we take our talent, have some time and some practice, then they become our strengths. So what we want to do is it's important to identify those strengths because that's how we set ourselves up for success. It allows us to develop a positive self perception. And then it also, people say, what about those weaknesses? It helps us manage our weaknesses because now we use our strengths to manage those. And then also it helps us change a little bit in our brains so we're communicating more about the positives.
Yeah,
Because,
it can be really hard, especially kids that get really caught up in what they did wrong.
exactly, very much. And, unfortunately in our brain, bad experiences are like Velcro and good experiences are like Teflon. So we really have to work at that. So that brings me to my next slide. And that is why we have to focus on positives because we have a negativity bias. It's what's kept us alive. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have it because we do have to watch out for danger. Unfortunately, as I just mentioned, bad experiences are like Velcro, and good experiences are like Teflon. So we need at least three positives for every negative to keep it at least enough in balance. If it
Yeah,
goes
that makes
the other
so
way,
much sense
it's
because
very
your
difficult.
body's trying to keep you alive, so it wants to protect you from doing something that's going to hurt you again, and so you remember those more.
Yep.
But
So
that can really be detrimental to your mental health.
it can. And there's a new concept. I was introduced to the polyvagal theory a number of years ago, and Dr. Stephen Porges has been studying, this. And we have a major cranial nerve called the vagus nerve, and it goes all the way through our body. It's actually called the wandering nerve. But he coined a term to that operates under our awareness called neuroception, and it's our subconscious danger detection. So it's our nervous system is always doing this. It's always evaluating the risk outside of our awareness. And I love Dr. Mona Delahook talks about it's our subconscious TSA agent. It's always trying to protect us. So it's not a bad thing. It's just that sometimes it gets a little wonky. And when that neuroception is going on, that limbic system, that red part of our brain lights up. And that's our protective. That's where our amygdala is. That's all our
Mm-hmm.
fight and flight and everything. And it also has that bottom red part there is what keeps us breathing and things. But unfortunately, when that happens, that means our cortex, and especially our prefrontal cortex, this part right here in the front, is offline. So if we're not able to manage these strong feelings and emotions so that we can use this, we're going to go back into fight and flight.
Yeah, and I just want to note for people here, like, don't worry. The text here is not of consequence for this. It's just the image here, and
Images.
also because I'm a massive nerd, and I was just watching Star Trek Discovery. It's like you got to think of it like because I know a lot of people like they think of these like complex medical terms like prefrontal cortex. It's kind of like your brain is rerouting power from the engines that keep you going and functioning every day to your shields to protect you from any possible attacks or things that can
Very
hurt
good.
you.
And then another one, if you can see my hand here, this is Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Siegel. Dan Siegel always uses his. You always can use this as your brain because this down here is the part that keeps you alive. These are our emotions in our system here. And then this is the part right behind our forehead. And that's our thinking part. And that's the part we want to keep connected to our emotions because when we're not, we flip our lid. And
Mm-hmm.
we've all done that. So that's something we don't want to have to do too often. It's definitely not our limbic system is definitely not our good planning. So when we're in that green zone, we're in what we call social engagement. We have joy. We're in the present moment. We have compassion. We're curious. We want to learn. We want to connect with people. When we start moving into fight and flight, and we do, then we move into that kind of I call it the red zone or the pink zone. We're a little bit worried. We might be frustrated. We get irritated. And if we're not aware of it, we can way get up there and we're totally dysregulated. Or we can all the way go up into depression and shame. And that just takes a lot of energy. So, what Dr. Burgess talks about is we want to kind of go in and out. We kind of want to flatten that curve, just like we're flattening the curve with COVID. We want to flatten the curve here. We want to go in a little bit into fight and flight because that gives us energy and things. But we want to be able to come back into social engagement with other people, with ourselves in a calm way. So that's a really important because this going up and down is just it will wear you out.
I
You
was
know,
actually just gonna say that being constantly on high alert is it's what's gonna give that a chronic fatigue is a lot of A lot of people have chronic fatigue and just but they have no idea why. And it's because
Exactly.
you've been stressed out and been like anxious and worried about things all the time, and you can't calm down and
Yeah,
come down
calm
and
down.
relax.
So this is the grown-up version of it, but I like the kid version the best. It's the same one. If anybody wants this, they just email me, and I will happy to send them these. They're great to have around. It's a good way, but we want to stay in the I can, because sometimes having that fight gives you that little bit of oomph to be able to say I can. When we get down into this other part, we get into hopelessness and I can't. That's not a good thing. So it tells us over here on the side, I'll say tell you a little bit about what's happening in your body, and we really, as we go further, you really want to notice that, especially when we're in stressful times. So, how do we make this shift? Because we've got to shift from what's wrong. That's where fight and flight is. Usually we have to energize. We want to stretch to what's strong. So, there's different ways of doing this, and there's lots of tools and assessments. And obviously, in this short period of time, we can't really look at lots of tools and things. But values and actions is one, core value index is another. And then the Gallup organization's been around for a really long time, and they've got a number of ones for kids. And the strength spotting is something we do. You can use any of the other ones for older kids and adults. But the strength-based parenting book is an excellent one just to get to kind of wrap your head around it. If you're saying, "Well, I'm just not quite sure," that's a really good one to check out. And most of the libraries have it now too, when they open again anyway. For kids, as parents, as caregivers for ourselves, we want to watch for the clues. Like, how do I know what my kids are strengths? Sometimes it can, sometimes our strengths can look like things that are annoying, like the chatterbox in a classroom. That's usually someone who has a strength in communicating, right? So we just have to
That
rechannel
was
it.
me.
So it's there you go. That's right. Activities, but look what you're doing and see this is you're using your strength. And in putting this conference together and interviewing people, you're using your communication strength. So usually the activities we're drawn towards, it's things that we pick up pretty quickly. It's when we're excited to repeat an activity. It's when we lose track of time. It's like when you call it, you're in the zone, right? And then it's also, then we want to look for the patterns. Like, okay, what am I seeing with my kids? What are some of the clues that they're giving me? What are the clues about myself? When am I the happiest?
And something that parents might not think about is that it might be perhaps that their kids are, like you were saying with the chatterbox, their kids are trying to flex that muscle that
Mm-hmm.
maybe, particularly right now when families are at home and they're not on their daily schedule like they normally would be, they're flexing that skill that normally gets used but now isn't.
Now, we do want to keep exploring it, giving our kids opportunities to do things they might not otherwise do, right? So it doesn't take us out of the parental role of offering opportunities. It's just we need to also be noticing their strengths, because usually they fit into some themes. Like there's kids that really like to achieve, right? There are other kids that are really caring. There's some kids that just love competition. They really enjoy it. Kids that have a lot of confidence, and some other kids are you can just always depend on them, right? Their dependability is one of their core. Discoverer, they're always curious, wondering, what if I did this? What if I did that? And the future thinker, the organizer, the presence. Kids who have presence usually want to be the center of attention, right? Kids who are always relating, making sure kids are included. But these are for the strength spotting that I tend to do with kids under 10 and with the 10 to 14 too. But I'm looking for these kind of themes because then we can begin to take a look at how they're learning and how we're living together in our family
I'm sure that there are
around
many
these.
parents right now who are like, "Oh yeah, that's totally my kid. That's them for sure."
That's right. The little discoverer, you can
Yep,
almost see
like
them tinkering, you can almost see them inventing new little things.
it's
Um,
watch the gears turn.
yep, yep. And then you see the one who's organized, and they just have to have everything in order. And they're the ones who follow everything with the Lego set. And the little discoverer is always, taking pieces from one Lego set to the other. So, yeah, awesome things. And so then we want to put strengths in action. How do we do that? So I'm going to show you an example of a young woman who's now a young woman, but we did this when she was 12 and a half, and we did the Strength Explorer, and it takes about 15 or 20 minutes. And we did it together. If you decide to use a tool, you have to assess, can the kid do it by themselves? But when we did this, um, she came out as a future thinker. She loves to think and dream about the future. The person who likes to think about what's possible, not what is impossible. And she has a lot of confidence. but she takes on challenges, right? And then she had presence. She was just born to be at the front of the room, telling stories, doing all those things. So as we went through the next, designed her learning plan, we had to really kind of take a look at her strengths. How can we incorporate those strengths into her learning plan? And if we were doing a workshop, I would have you all break into groups and we would start brainstorming that. But since we have just a little bit of time, I'll jump to the next thing. And this is my learner 3 years later, and I'll let her tell you how it worked. All right. Thanks, Tatum, for meeting with me today. I love your mind map. That's pretty cool. I wanted to have a quick chat with you a little bit about how us doing the Strength Finders Explorer, like was it now 3.5 years ago when you were 12 and a half, have been helpful for you as you become a much more confident and introspective learner. You know a lot about yourself as a learner now. And so can you tell us a little bit about how it's helped you?
So, because I'm a future thinker, I can apply myself into strengths like optimism, like seeing the future, having optimism about it, and like just letting myself progress, because if I wasn't really optimistic about the future, I would never be able to like let myself progress.
I think your
So,
second one was presence. Was it presence there?
yeah, presence. Sorry. So my presence, I will go to like my my showing my learning department of my mind map because to show like my presence, I show my drawings, to like give better understanding to people. I draw mind maps, which helps me like say what I'm thinking in my mind and like have it laid out cleanly. And then presentations. In the recent time, I've really realized that presentations is a great way to show the thing that I'm learning in the momentum. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And the last one, which is confidence, um, would probably be my observation to like life and art and learning, because in all those three categories you need to have confidence. You need to have confidence to life. Like I need confidence to like start working at my parents' hotel. I need confidence to like solve my problems with my friends. I need confidence to like learn that putting a piece of cake in the oven and then putting it in cold water will make the glass explode. You need confidence to learn that. Okay. Art, I need huge confidence because I just draw the most insane things, and I have to like rely a lot of confidence into it because it will like paintings are never finished, so you have to rely on a lot of confidence that you will be able to tell yourself stop. You know. And in learning, you need that's where you need like the most confidence is in learning, because if you don't have confidence, if for example, if you're going to learn about, I don't know, for example, active transport, okay, you need confidence to learn that. You need to be like, okay, I'm confident that I'm going to learn this and I'm going to have a great time learning it, and you go for it. So yeah.
That's cool. Well, these are your strengths. And when we first did this, I I definitely saw your presence because I saw you do that Michael Jackson routine. Um, and you had presence in front of all those people and you enjoy it. And I saw your future thinker because you could write. And the one I saw developing at that point that wasn't well developed yet was your confidence. And I think you really have worked on developing that one because these are your talents and your strengths. But if we don't use them in our lives, as you just said, if you don't use them, they can't develop. And you've done an amazing job. So it's been a pleasure to work with you. I'm looking forward to continuing work with you. And now we're ready to maybe do the next one because you're now 16 and ready to do the more adult version where you'll get a broader understanding of your strengths. So thanks a bunch, Tatum. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. And her understanding her strengths has just helped her through some extremely challenging times in their family. They've had death in the family. They've had all kind of things happen. But us being able to help her. And she has reading issues and dyslexia and dyscalculia, and she still loves learning. And it's because we were able to help her learn in ways that work for her. And Tatum is probably, as she said, if it works for me, it can work for anybody. And so she's kind of my poster child for all the learning challenges she experienced. This was a major change and a turnaround for her.
Because we all know people and we look at them and we're like, I can just see them. They're going to be really good at this one day, or this is perfect for them. I have friends, it was really funny because I have friends who told me, they're like, you'd be a really good event organizer. And I'm like, yeah, but I guess. And now what are we doing? But it is really interesting that you were able to see that. But it is very difficult for sometimes us to see it in ourselves. So it's great that she was able to go through that with you and figure that out for herself and where she needed to practice to be able to flex and grow that muscle.
Yeah, she's an amazing artist. That is her passion. And she is an amazing artist and a painter. And so we did channel a lot of energy in that direction and looked for ways that she could show what she knows in ways that work for her. So it makes a big difference. Did you feel good about seeing that, Victoria? Was it an experience that you enjoyed watching the change?
Oh, absolutely. That's really, and again, like I said, because it does help you kind of think about yourself a little bit. And I was doing that while you were showing off some of the skills for the kids. And, I remember I was thinking back on my childhood and I was like, yeah, confidence was never my thing, but I was always very organized. And, going through that list that you were showing. And, people actually, they will be able to share a little bit. If, you're watching this live on the YouTube channel, go ahead and type into your chat box. And we also have our Facebook group that, you can find the post that's going to be showing this talk from Monica. And go ahead and you can share your experiences on that post so that Monica can see and she can talk to all you guys.
I love that. And I do have some upcoming events. I'm going to be actually facilitating a workshop on strength-based resilience for 4 Saturdays. And also I'll be presenting at the Aero workshop at the Aero conference. It's going to be virtual this year, the 25th to 20th. If you're interested in alternative education, it's definitely the place to be. So check in at what we'll be doing. We'll be talking more about trauma there and how its impact on learning, my colleague and I. So I would love to see some of you again online, and hope we can connect there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. And make sure to come check out her other talk that she's going to be doing on the 24th. Just go ahead and check the schedule, and we'll see you there.